Hello friends, today we have to start with the second lesson of your third module, that is called as indifference curve. Indifference curve means it is a locus of points which consists of the different bundle of commodities that provide the consumer a constant amount of satisfactions. Any combination he can consume, it provides the consumer equal amount of satisfactions. This particular thing developed by Hicks and Allen, and while he developed this particular thing, he take into account the ordinal measurement of utility. The satisfaction is to be measured. Let for example, you have to satisfy while you consuming some amount of the product, you have to be satisfied. Then how much amount of satisfied, in which you to explain that one. Suppose you are consuming one glass of water and one glass of Coca-Cola, then how much of satisfaction of the received from the Coca-Cola and how much satisfaction received from the glass of water, you have to explain it. And while if you considering the term Marshallian point of view, Marshall explained with the help of the cardinal measurement of utility. He provides some number to assign how much unit of satisfaction you are receiving from the consumption of a glass of water or glass of Coca-Cola. But while you enter into the next concept, that is the Hicks and Allen's indifference curve analysis, he explained with the help of the ordinal measurement of utility. Instead of you assigning a number, we can say that Coca-Cola provide more satisfaction than the water. So, that the concept of your here it will be ranking it. If you take into account the Marshallian point of view, Marshall it will be numbering it 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. But in case of your Hicks and Allen, he take into account the first, second, third and so on. So, that is called the ranking. This is called the cardinal measurement of utility, this is called the ordinal measurement of utility. This was developed by Marshall and this was developed by Hicks and Allen. We have to study the second bit of it, that is called the Hicks and Allen concept of your indifference curve. While study the term consumer behavior or the household with the help of your ordinal measurement of utility. Then first of all, we have to defining that what the definition tells us. Now, that definition tells us the consumer, it is a locus of points, it is a locus of points which provide the consumer equal amount of satisfaction. That means, if you take into account this side is your fish and this side is your mango, and we take a locus of points, this is your indifference curve, this is your indifference curve. You can consume let us say 10 unit of fish, or you can consume let us say 20 unit of fish. Let us say we have to take into account 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, right. In this side, let us say you can consuming the mango as, let for example it to be 100, and in this case let us say it to be 50, here it is let us say 30, here you can consuming 20, here you consuming let us say it to be 15. We find different combinations are there. Either you have to consuming at the point A or the point B or the point C or the point D or the point E. Any point you are going to be consume, right, that provide the consumer equal amount of satisfactions. Either you have to consuming the point A where the let for example the fish and mango, the fish is to be at the point A it is 1 and 100, if the point B it is 2 and 50, at the point C it is 3 and 30, at the point D it is 4 and 20, at the point E it will be the 5 and 15. Any combination, either this particular bundle or this bundle or any combination you can consume, the consumer provide the equal amount of satisfactions. Consumer should not find any differences between A, B, C or D. There is no differences are there. Therefore, consumer is unable to find any difference between A, B, C, D and E. All are to be provide the consumer equal amount of satisfaction. That is the concept of your indifference curve, right. Then what is the sacrifice concept? That is the slope. Now, slope of the indifference curve, or instead of your slope we have to take into account the marginal rate of substitutions. Marginal rate of substitutions x per y or the fish for mango. What is the marginal rate of substitution fish for mango? Now, marginal rate of substitution x for y, or this is to take into account x and y, the fish for mango. If we consuming one extra unit of fish, we have to sacrifice how much amount of mango? आम ये कौन करूँ गोटा को 100 दिस कम्बिनेसन आम कि आम जब गोटे एक्सट्रा फिश आम नवा केते सैक्रिफाइस करवा मैंगो ना 50 आम जब आउ गोटे एक्सट्रा फिश आई मीन कंजप्शन करवा केते सैक्रिफाइस करवा मैंगो ना 20 यूनिट सैक्रिफाइस करिवे. If you are consuming one extra unit of mango, then how much sacrifice you have to take into account? 10. If you are consuming further more 1 unit of fish, then how much you have to sacrifice? That is the 5. And these things, what do you find? The rate of sacrifice, the rate of substitutions, good x for y, that is the fish for mango, must have to be diminishes. That means the sacrifice is not remain constant like as in case of your budget constraint. Budget constraint ame kon dekhuthile na setire ame constant amount of sacrifice karuthile. That means gote fish kinla mane ame 5 ta ko mango ko sacrifice karuthile. But in this case it is not so. Here why it is not so? Because each and every point on it provide the consumer equal amount of satisfactions. That the concept of your indifference curve analysis, and this is called as the marginal rate of substitutions, and that marginal rate of substitution represented as a slope of indifference curve, and that always diminishes. That slope is always diminishes. That is called the diminishing marginal rate of substitution x per y. That means that substitutions, if you consuming one extra fish, we have to sacrifice some extra unit of mango, and that sacrifice rate must always be diminishes, and that diminishing concept is treated as the diminishing marginal rate of substitutions x per y or fish per mango. Now, while Hicks and Allen explaining the concept of your indifference curve analysis, he take into account certain axioms, certain assumptions operator base korichi. So axiom gudika kon? Now axioms tells us the concept of your non-satiety. Non-satiety means the consumer is to be try to consuming more always. आम जो देखा कंज्यूमर कौन कर इज ऑलवेज फाइंड डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ ट्रेड ऑफ एंड हिज इंटेंशन टू द मैक्सिमाइजेशन सैटिस्फैक्शन वन ऑफ द 10 प्रिंसिपल ऑफ योर इकोनॉमिक्स his intention to the maximize the satisfaction every point he always try to more. That means it is not so that it is I got this much a combination, yes, that fulfill my requirement. No, it is not so. So because the human wants are unlimited, so that the concept the non-satiety, he always try to move up and up, right. That is the first most important assumptions of it. And one thing you already know, that it should be measured cardinally. That's sorry, it's called the measurement of a utility must be ordinal. That's called the ordinal measurement of utility. And next most important term is called the transitivity. What is the meaning of the transitivity? Transitivity means in the sense, suppose A combinations provide more satisfaction than B. If a combination A provide more satisfaction than B and B provide more satisfaction than C, then what do you find? A greater than C. That means A provide more satisfaction than C, right. If is A prefer over B, B prefer over C, obviously A prefer over C. Similarly, if one time you find A prefer over B, never B is to be prefer over A. It is not possible. That the concept of your the conjunction, the assumptions of that indifference curve analysis. Every time if A is more than B, B is more than C, that implies that A definitely more than C. So that is the way of the transitivity law tells us. Then next concept is the symmetry. Symmetry in the sense, suppose A provide equal satisfaction than the B equals same satisfaction than C, that implies that A must be provide the same satisfaction as C. So, this combination, if A equal to B, B equals to C, that implies that A must be equals to C. As in this case, if A is greater than B, B is greater than C, that implies that A is greater than C. That means it is the superior over it. So, that the concept of your symmetry, transitivity, non-satiety, okay, these are the different axioms on which the indifference curve is to be based upon. Then after knowing the term, what is indifference curve, what is the slope of the indifference curve, and what are the major axioms of it. Now move to the what are the properties of indifference curve. Properties of indifference curve. There are some basic properties are there. We have to start with the first most important property. The indifference curve always slopes downward from left to right. Indifference curve slopes downwards from left to right. Always the indifference curve had to be downward sloping like this. This is the indifference curve, this is the good x, this is the good y, or you can take mango and fish. It always look like this, it is always downward sloping. Then the downward sloping, why not it to be upward sloping? What the problem behind it, right? It is the downward sloping, why not is the upward sloping? Upward sloping in the sense, suppose let us say it be upward sloping like this way. Why is not possible in this case? Why the indifference not upward sloping? There is a non-satiety assumptions, as you know. Each and every point A, the point A, the point B, the point C, A equals to B equals to C. All the points provide the consumers the equal amount of satisfactions. But in this case, what do you find? The point A, B and C, as compared to the B, as compared to the A, it consists of more of both the commodities. Similarly, C provide the better satisfaction than the B, B provide the better satisfaction than the A. That the satisfaction level to be increases because the combination of the both the commodities increases. In this case, what do you find? If you increase a particular product, other must be fall. But if you increase one product, other must be increases in this case. So, never indifference curve to be a upward sloping curve. Similarly, it never term be a horizontal straight line. Indifference curve never to be a horizontal straight line. Why it is so? Because if you find the combination, let us the point A, B and C, again no doubt each and every point they consume a constant amount of y, but the B provide more satisfaction than the A, C provide more satisfaction than the B because the consumption of x increases. As it is possible, that means as the consumption of x increases, it is not possible because the axioms tells us, the assumptions tells us, if the consumer consume a particular product more, he must be sacrifice less of the other commodities, as it is possible in the first case. If we increase good x, that of y must be reduces. But in these two cases, what you find? The x and y to increases in here, but here x increases, y constant. In the same manner, indifference curve never to be a vertical straight line. What do you find? In this case also the points are not provide the same satisfaction. C provide more satisfaction than the B, provide more satisfaction than A, because no doubt they consume a constant unit of good x, but they consume more unit of good y. If you try to consuming more of y, definitely y reduces, x reduces, but here in this case it is not possible. So, therefore, this is not possible upward sloping, this is not possible in case of a horizontal straight line, this is not possible in case of a vertical straight line. The last option is that the indifference curve always slopes downward from left to right, okay. That is the first property. Move to the second. Indifference curve always convex to origin. Indifference curve always convex to origin. That means what? Now, indifference curve ta sobuବେଳେ ପାଇଁ convex ହେଇଥିବ. Convex in the sense like this. goodbye, downward sloping but convex ହେଇଥିବ, right? କାହିଁକି convex ହେଉଛି ନା it is so because of the diminishing marginal rate of substitution x per y. जो slope टा ଅଛି तो slope always diminishes. प्रथमे ଯେତିକି sacrifice କରିଥିଲା second sacrifice definitely less than that of the first sacrifice. If you consuming the more of a particular commodity, you have to do sacrifice of the commodities. But प्रथम थर जेतिकी sacrifice करिथिला second थर जो sacrifice करथुला second sacrifice प्रथम sacrifice टू कम रहइबो. Then further जदि अधिक consumption करिवो next commodities बर्तमान जो sacrifice करिवो that to be which is to be less than the previous sacrifice. So that is called the diminishing marginal rate of substitution x per y. For that reason indifference curve to be a convex to the origin or convex downway, right? But what are the other cases? As you know, the first property tells us indifference curve is always downward sloping. First property tells us the indifference curve is slopes downward from left to right. Mark it in all these three cases. What do you find? Now indifference curve to be downward sloping. All three cases are downward sloping. But they are not convex. Our intention that no doubt with the downward sloping it should be convex to origin, and convex to origin it will takes place here because of the diminishing marginal rate of substitutions. But in this case what do you find? It is called as the constant marginal rate of substitution x per y. जो आमे sacrifice करिबा सेटा सबुबले में constant रहइबो because of the linear curves. And here increasing marginal rate of substitution x per y. Rate of substitution जोटा करछि सेटा increase करिवो. देखो मार्क करछि एटी ड्रा करी देखौछि. Here what do you find? We have to increase equal increment of x. If you find the equal increment of x, mark the concept how much you sacrifice. एटी जेतिकी sacrifice करिथिला this is we take into account delta y1 and this is your delta y2 and this is your delta y3. Delta y1 is to be greater than delta y2 is greater than delta y3 and so on. Therefore, it means the sacrifice amount to be reduces. But what happened to here? If you move the exactly equal increment of a particular product, and what do you find? The sacrifice rate, everywhere the sacrifice rate had to be remain the same. That is called the constant marginal rate of substitution x per y. But what happened to here? If you take into account the equal increment of good x, आमे यदि x को equal increment करिबा, and we have to judge the term the sacrifice of good y, and the sacrifice level are going to be increasing. Mark it, the distance is to be further increases, right? It is called the increasing marginal rate of substitutions. That is called the constant marginal rate of substitution. This is called the diminishing marginal rate of substitutions. So, second property tells us indifference curve always convex to the origin, not to be a straight line, not to be concave to the origin. Okay? This is only one possibility is there. Now, after knowing the second property, move to the third property. Indifference curve never cut each other. Indifference curve never cut or intersect each other. Why it is so? Why not intersecting each other? Now, if they intersect, what the problem arises? We have to take into account that. Suppose, I mean, theta indifference curve number, let us say IC1, this is your IC2. Suppose they have to be intersect. Now, take the point as A and the point B, both lie on the indifference curve 1. If they lie on the indifference curve 1, what they reflect? A must be equal to B, because each and every point on the indifference curve provide the equal amount of satisfaction. Similarly, take a point vertically above the point P, that is the point C. The point A and C lie on the same indifference curve IC2. That means A must be equal to C. Both lie on the same indifference curve. What do you find? A equal to B, A equal to C, that implies that B must be equal to C. mathematically, logically, but is it so in this particular figure? No. We consume, definitely we have to consume exactly same amount of x, B point रे x ଏତିକି କିଣୁଛେ, C point ରେ भी x ମଧ୍ୟ ଏତିକି କିଣୁଛେ, but whatever the y consumption, B point ରେ कम y किणुछे, C point रे अधिक y किणुछे, that means C provide more satisfaction than the B, that contradict our axioms or assumptions. Therefore, indifference curve never intersect each other, right. So, this is the next most important property. Now, move to the last one, that is called the higher indifference curve provide higher amount of satisfaction. Higher I say provide higher satisfaction. It is so because if you move to the up and off higher indifference curve, that provide more satisfaction because the consumption of both the commodities, combination of both the commodities are going to be increased. Therefore, it will provide the more and more amount of satisfaction. Suppose we take the point A, the point B and the point C. Why the point B is more than the point, more than that of the point A? Because A point रे आम जेतिकी गुड एक्स एंड गुड वाई किणुचे, y रे आम अधिक गुड एक्स एंड गुड वाई किणुचे, एठी आम अधिक गुड एक्स एंड गुड वाई किणुचे. So that means always the higher indifference curve provide the more satisfaction as compared to the bottom one. So these are the major properties of your indifference curve. Now move to the what are the extreme examples of the properties of indifference curves. Extreme examples. In case of extreme example, we take the two cases, basically the four cases. Let us do the two cases first. One is called the substitute and second is the complement. If the goods are to be substitute for each other, जदि आम प्रोडक्ट जो कमोडिटी आम किणुचे, if they are to be perfectly substitute for each other, then in that case remember marginal rate of substitution x for y remains constant. The substitution definitely remain constant. As the substitution to be remain constant in case of your products are to be substitute, in that case the indifference curve to be a straight line. Indifference curve to be a straight line like this. IC1, IC2 like this. It will be a straight line. But if they are the complement to each other, in that case the indifference curve took the shape of your right angle shape. Good y, this is the good x. It will always take a right angle shape like this. IC1, this is the IC2 and so on. These are the two extreme examples. Why it is so? Because the products are to be substitute here and in that case they are to be complement. Got it? Now, the less extreme cases, these are the more extreme cases, these are the more extreme cases. More extreme cases are the substitute commodities and the complement commodities. Now we have to move to the less extreme cases. In case of your less extreme cases, definitely the indifference curve to be convex to the origin, but there are the two cases I take into account, the close substitute and the close complement. Here we take into account the substitute and complement. Then comes to the next bit is to be close substitute and close complement. So, how we have to segregating these things, close substitute and close complement. If they are to be close substitute for each other, then they are not convex to the origin, rather they becomes like this. It is a flat like this. It is not necessarily convex, not necessarily a straight line, like in case of your close substitute, right. In case of substitute, you not a straight line. In the close substitute, the indifference curve to be like this, good x and this side is a good y. Similarly, if they are the close complement to each other, then in that case they are to be convex, no doubt, but not a right angle. In case of a complement, we know it will be a right angle, but in this case it will be like this, indifference curve, IC1, IC2 like this. Got it? If the products are to be closed substitute, this is the case of the closed substitute and complement to be that. In previous case, we take into account substitute and complement. Beside the 4 properties, we have to know these are the more extreme cases and less extreme cases to explaining the term properties of indifference curve, right. So, today what we cover, what is the meaning of the indifference curve, what is the slope of the indifference curve, and what are the major assumptions of the indifference curve or the axioms of the indifference curve, and thereafter what are the 4 most important properties of indifference curve, and there are the 2 other extreme cases, one is called the more extreme cases and less extreme cases. In the coming class we start with the term what is the consumer's equilibrium. Thank you.